On today's show, there could be progress between the 76ers and the Clippers on a James Harden deal. We'll tell you why the Clippers have to make this deal soon for James Harden. Then Joel Embiid commits to Team USA. Does this make the States the favorites for the gold medal? All of that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On NBA. I'm Wes Goldberg, here with Nick Angstadt, filling in for Adam Mares today. However, you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We're going to get to the Joel Embiid committing to Team USA and some preseason basketball worth watching, and then reports from Heat training camp and Dallas Mavericks training camp in a bit. But first, let's start with James Harden, who, according to The Athletic, the Clippers are trying to work out a trade for James Harden, and a deal could involve multiple teams. After missing media day, Harden reported to Sixers training camp in Colorado as to not be a distraction, Nick, which he believes could help move a trade along. But one of the sticking points in any deal with the Clippers could be including Terrence Mann. Daryl Morey is reportedly seeking unprotected future firsts, multiple of those, as opposed to the pick swaps that the Clippers are trying to include. But Adam, or as they say here, Nick, it's progress. There's something here. Conversations at least are being had around the league. Kind of feels a little bit like the lead up to the Damian Lillard trade. It's like, okay, now we kind of know what these teams want and what they're looking for, and maybe some of the machinations that are going on behind the scenes. So my question to you, Nick, is what happens now?
Yeah, I just want to say first that I am not as smart as Adam Mares. I'm not as good looking as Adam Mares. I don't know as much about the Denver Nuggets as Adam Mares does, or about Serbian culture as Adam Mares does, but I will be louder than Adam Mares is on this show for sure. My takes will be loud.
Well, then it's just as good.
Yeah, and I can count just as well as Adam Mares with the power rankings. So
right.
with this James Harden thing, like, first of all, he's going to be a distraction. Like, to come in and not be a distraction, or to say that the reason why he's showing up to camp is not to be a distraction, is to me like completely off the wall. He's going to be a distraction no matter what. He's coming in because he wants that free agency next year, right? Like in the new CBA, if he doesn't show up to training camp, he doesn't show up for what? He's got 30 days or something like that. If he doesn't show up, then he can't be a free agent. And so that's why he's back at this point. And then we had our own Keith Pompey from Locked On Sixers report that those pick swaps are not going to be enough. You know, the Clippers are trying to just offer pick swaps for him, and the Sixers were saying that's just not enough for us. And so there's now a negotiation, but it seems like the Clippers are the only team negotiating with the Sixers. And so it's just back and forth between those two teams at this point. And so, yeah, the James Harden thing is just so weird to me, because do the Clippers want him? Locked On Clippers, Darian Baziri doesn't even want him.
That's the thing. It feels like the Clippers want him the way, like, you're like, you don't really want Domino's pizza, but you'll take it. You know what I mean? It's
a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. It's like it shows up to our door. If there's something there, we're like, you know what? I kind of need another pillow. Like, I'm going to go pick it up. I've got this coupon anyway, but I only want
hypoallergenic. Great. Done. It's like, but my favorite thing about this James Harden thing, and you already talked about this, Nick, was about how he's saying, I don't want to be a distraction. I'm coming in. And by the way, all the reporting around it is like he's in great shape. He's not being a distraction. But like, if you keep saying you're not a distraction, it's sort of a distraction. It's kind of like one of those things. But also my favorite part about all of this is how he just creates all this noise, calling Daryl Morey a liar, just going totally like classic James Harden noise making over the summer. And then he just shows up to Colorado. He's like, oh no, I'm just here to be a part of the team. The level of humor in that, I don't think can be understated. That's like British Office style, just like so perfectly played from a humor perspective. I adore it. I think James Harden is hysterical for this, and I'm here for it. But in terms of what happens next, what I can't figure out, like you said, I don't know if the Clippers really want him, because the holding up point here, like, look, we could debate like the pick swaps versus the first round picks. I would be surprised if Philly got unprotected first, but maybe protected first. Seems one or two of those. But like, it seems like the sticking point, and at least the reporting around this, and you're right, like Keith Pompey reported on this too, is Terrence Mann. And I think Terrence Mann is a good player. Like, he's a fine player. But like, if you have an opportunity, if you want James Harden, the sticking point wouldn't be Terrence Mann. You would just be like, Terrence Mann, it's been real, especially the way the Clippers operate, right? They traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Paul George in order to sign Kawhi Leonard. Like, they would just trade this dude, right? Like, I can't really believe that the sticking point in a deal, if they really wanted Harden, would be Terrence Mann, as a fine of a player as he is.
Well, you go back to who are they bidding against, right? We always do this with free agents, and it doesn't really work that way because you have to still pay guys. Like even, I'll take up for the Mavs. Like even with the Kyrie thing, who else was bidding for Kyrie? Okay, well, you don't want to pay Kyrie $20 million a year and bring him back and him just be like pissed off the entire season. Well, on this though, it's just between these two teams. James Harden's not going to be upset if you try to get the best deal for him possible. If you're the Clippers, he just wants to be there no matter what. He just wants out of Philly for whatever reason he wants. And if you're the Clippers, man, we finally just got some picks. Like what they have their own, they could trade their own 2028 and 2030 first round picks. So they have them there. They're trying to offer the pick swaps instead. And they're like, man, we finally just got these picks back, and we don't want to give them up for a James Harden because they're paying the Sixers are dealing with the anti-tax of James Harden. Like his value is so low, it is diminishing so much right now because of how it's ended in all these different places. It's ended in Houston, ended in Brooklyn, and now ended in Philly. He just every single place he goes, it seems like it goes the opposite way, and he'll play well, but. Keith Pompey has said this on Locked On Sixers so often that they played the best last year when James Harden was the facilitator and he was the guy, with 10 assists, leading the NBA in assists per game, and that he was the guy that was, making it happen as a facilitator. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be the guy with the ball in his hands that scored. He wanted to be back as a scorer. He wanted to lead the league in scoring again. He wanted to take that role more so than he did the role that actually made the team better. And like, if you're hearing that, and I'm sure if we know that, and if Keith's reporting that, then the teams know that. And if the Clippers know that, then like, if the Clippers know that, then why would they pay a high price for a guy that could come in and derail your entire like culture almost at this point? And so I think to me, with James Harden and the Clippers, it comes down to, all right, can we get him at a discount? It goes back to the Bed Bath & Beyond coupons. Like, can we get him at a discount to where we don't have to give up too much? And then if we can, all right, we'll just try it and see what happens. Sort of like what they did with Russell Westbrook last year. Can we just try it and see what happens? And if we can't, then I don't know, it'll just keep going on and the Clippers will probably just deal with it and not trade for James Harden at a certain point.
It sort of reminds me of the Damian Lillard situation with the Miami Heat, right? Like the Heat, the whole thing the entire time was we're not going to negotiate against ourselves. And then what happened, right? Milwaukee just sort of talked themselves into the Damian Lillard idea, realized that they can get him at a certain value, and then went ahead and made that trade. So that's the part, like if the Clippers really do want James Harden, I would just give, I'm almost at the point, like not obviously give Philadelphia whatever they want, but if the sticking point is like protections over picks or pick swaps or Terrence Mann, like a role player like that, I think there's value in just getting the trade done while you're still in training camp, while you still have some preseason games left, and then just hit the ground running and going. Like I sometimes worry that teams get like a little too cute with this. Like we don't have to negotiate against ourselves because we just saw that backfire for the Heat. You know what I mean? So like if the Clippers want them, just go get them. And if not, like I say you don't, because right now they're sort of signaling out there like we want them, but for this package. And again, that's what the Heat did, and they ultimately didn't get the guy that they wanted. And if you're the Clippers, then you need to basically just go get your guy, because I don't like how much longer does this window with Kawhi and Paul George have? Like to me, I don't even really care about the picks.
I guess, but like, are they rushing to get a guy that could just come in and derail everything that they wanted? Even if they get a training camp with him, even if they do a preseason, like James Harden just didn't want to play the type of basketball that won the Sixers games last year. Like, do they really want to bring that in? I understand if they got him the same way they got Westbrook, where we're just not giving up enough. We might as well try it. We might as well do it. But I think for them, they don't want to give up a player, even a player like Terrence Mann, who comes in, plays a fine role for him. He's touted as a young guy. He's like 27, 28 years old. He's not a young guy anymore. But if they have to pay any kind of price, to me, I think that's what scares them away is, hey, we don't want to pay too much for him. But if we can get him for like what we got Westbrook for, then it'll be fine.
That's fine. I mean, is there any other teams that you think of that should be in the James Harden mix off the top of your head? I mean, apparently there's none. But
I was going to say, we, the NBA media, we've been doing this for months now at this point, and there's not been one team that people have brought up that has been like, oh yeah, totally, they should go after him, unless it's, I don't know, like a Utah Jazz. Should the Utah Jazz just come in and be like, all right, let's get a guy,
like a young team trying to build up their culture?
I know, but like they don't have a ball handler. It's like, but there's just no good answers to it because he's okay. Give me your good one. Is it the Miami Heat?
It's the Miami Heat. You missed out on Dame. You missed out on Drew Holiday.
He flies to Miami and like every weekend anyway. He might as well just live there.
He probably has a house and some loyalty cards around here in this city. Like, dude, why not? Yeah, some loyalty punch cards for like a free Jamba Juice, after his 10th one or whatever it is. But
I don't think it's Jamba Juice.
No, it's an innuendo. But it's like, I like 8 months of James Harden. I know that Heat culture and Harden culture are like the polar opposites on the spectrum of cultures, but 8 months and then you're out and then he's gone. And then you can kind of just use a guy like that, like on the court. He's a 21-10 over the last 2 years. Why not? Like
you're the kid in high school that like knows you guys are both going to college in like 8 months and are like, hey, just go out with me. Let's just do it. It'll only be 8 months. Let's just do it. Like, but that person is toxic. You're like, maybe it'd be fun. Maybe it'd be fun. Maybe we'd have a fun summer, but like, I don't know if it'd be interesting.
It would at least be interesting. We'd all have stories to tell afterwards. So
that'd be very true.
Let's talk about Joel Embiid, James Harden's current teammate. Maybe not for much longer. He's going to be joining Team USA. What does this mean for their chances to win gold? We're going to talk about that next year on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Maybe put some money down on my Miami Dolphins. Maybe not so much your Dallas Cowboys, but definitely the Dolphins. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
The Sixers odds to make the playoffs, -1,000 yes, +560 to not. If they don't have James Harden, I don't know. I'm thinking about
it. So weak.
Thinking
I'll
about
take the yes on that. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. All right, we talked about James Harden. Let's just keep it all Sixers related. Does Joel Embiid committing to Team USA, joining LeBron and Steph, who have basically committed at this point, and we've got a flurry, a bunch of other names that could be in the mix here, but having Embiid, LeBron, and Steph, I just want to start there, Nick, as sort of the conceit of this segment. That trio, that three-man group, feels like it complements each other really well. And then obviously you're building on top of that. But does that make Team USA the favorites after the disappointing FIBA World Cup performance that they had?
Yeah. Sure it does. It makes them very good. I'm very happy for Team USA and all this.
Does it make them better than Slovenia?
Definitely makes them better than Slovenia, suffice it to say. It makes them better than Germany and all that. But even just having those guys without Joel Embiid all on should have made this Team USA better than all that. I want to go at it from a fan perspective and just say I hate this.
Really?
I do. Just from like a Team USA, even a Team USA fan and a fan of Slovenia. We've covered Slovenia on Locked On Mavs every single way from like the last 3 or 4 years. In Eurobasket, in FIBA, in Olympics, everything. And like there's something about playing for your country that these guys just really get behind and love. Yeah. And it's cool to see a Luka go against a Team USA where it's Luka and maybe one other NBA player in Chanchar and nobody else. It's cool to see these guys like represent their country, represent their team. And for Joel Embiid to like go and he's like, all right, I finally want to play for a winning team and go play for Team USA. I don't know. It's just, to me, it feels weird. And like, I don't like it. There's something about it I don't like.
It felt a little bit like a high school like a 5-star high school recruit picking a college, right? Like the only thing that Joel Embiid needed was like a Cameroon hat, a France hat, and a USA hat on a table, and then just pick up, like kind of fake towards the Cameroon hat and then be like, just kidding. And then grab the USA one and put it on his head. That's what this whole thing felt like. It doesn't really feel like the spirit of the Olympics. So all of that, I totally agree with, and it's hilarious.
I hadn't thought about the spirit of the Olympics. You're totally right about that. The spirit of competition in the Olympics. Like, is he going to carry the torch for the U.S.? I mean, what are we doing?
It's like also like how many Cameroon jerseys do you own? You know what I mean? Like how many French jerseys do you own? Maybe some people listening have an Mbappe jersey. Like that's it. Like it's the USA, man. This is our team. Put the best players on there. This is what America does. It's a melting pot. Just go grab the best guys, put them on the court, dominate, crush everybody, and move it along. That's what they're looking to do here.
So can anyone be on Team USA? Like, can we bring in anybody
if they want to? I'm okay with it. If Luka's like, look, I've spent the last 3 years of my life in the USA, I feel like American. Just
now, see, that's the thing that I got is as soon as Joel Embiid made this decision, I got a bunch of people texting us on our like Locked On Mavs subtext line, and we're like, could Luka be on Team USA? Could Kyrie convince Luka to be on Team USA? And I was like, I don't know if you guys have watched Luka or know anything about Luka. That is not something he's going to do. I don't think that he's going to join. That's one of his favorite things in life is being part of like Slovenia.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the part that the fan in me, it hurts to see Joel Embiid not feel that same way for a country or not have the same ties in that way, because it is so special for certain players. It's so special for Jokic in Serbia.
Playing for
it's fair.
Under the U18 team in France or Cameroon or anything like that. He
didn't really grow up playing basketball at all either.
Exactly. So maybe if it was maybe it was the World Cup for soccer, it'd be a different story. But like Luka, that's his life. You know what I mean? Like that's part of it. Same thing with Nikola Jokic and things like that. Like covering a guy on the Heat right now, Nikola Jovic, like adored these guys on the Serbian national team. And next thing you know, like growing up, had posters of these guys, and growing up now they're throwing passes to him for catch and shoot threes in the World Cup. Like it's a dream come true for him. Joel Embiid doesn't really have that experience. And I just like, I don't know. I get why people are like, it would have been really cool to watch him play for Cameroon and compete against the very best. And I'm like I said, how many Cameroon jerseys do you own? Why do you care? Like, get out of here. Like
well, could it have been him and Siakam? Like that would have been fun.
Yeah, I guess for like a couple weeks. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little overstated. And I also just sort of feel icky judging like one immigrant versus another and how it is that they go about like patriotism. You know what I mean? Like this is a guy who holds citizenship in 3 different countries, and he's very proud to be an American. And also it sounds like LeBron James might have recruited him to the team and offered him some money. I don't know. I'm just saying. Like, based on,
to be fair, if LeBron James invited me to a team and offered me money, I'm probably taking LeBron James.
Who's the better pitch man, LeBron or Pascal Siakam? I'll let you decide. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. The way it's going in Toronto while they're hemorrhaging guards up there, I think it may be LeBron James.
Can't even kick for the bleed. Look, in terms of the basketball product, I love the fit of LeBron, Steph, and Joel Embiid. That to me is very interesting. Yeah. I think it's very interesting when we talk about what that coaching staff, starting with Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, and all these other guys on that staff, Ty Lue, need to try to figure out. Like Steve Kerr just spent an entire FIBA World Cup going small. And now you have, but obviously they talked about needing a big man. And I think that's maybe part of the pitch was like, look at how badly we we couldn't rebound at all, like in the World Cup. Like Jaren Jackson Jr. is not going to make the USA team, I'll venture to guess, but for the Olympics. So you go and address that need with Embiid, and then you get the star power with LeBron and Steph. But beyond that, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo told us yesterday that he's got the invite to be there this year. I mean, this team could be loaded, and I'm just kind of curious to see how they play again, because Steve went small. And with the Warriors, obviously, for the last 10 years, has his comfort zone has gone smaller, not bigger. But he could have so much size on this team. I'd be interested to see, do you throw out double big lineups with Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis or something like that? Well,
and Team USA struggled with size so much in the FIBA World Cup. I mean, you watch that team, and they did play small a lot. They didn't have a ton of big options. It was like Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis. You're like, okay, well, maybe there's a reason why they went small. And that's the reason why the Warriors have gone small for so many years, is their better talent played at those positions. They're going to start Clay at power forward, apparently, because that's just going to be better for him, I guess, playing Curry and Chris Paul and Clay and Wiggins and Draymond.
Yep.
Okay, wait.
Draymond's injured. That's why they're doing it. And that I'm calling this as a swerve by Steve Kerr. Sometimes he's very transparent and honest with the media, and sometimes he'll just throw stuff out there. Klay Thompson will guard fours on switches. I don't think he's I'll believe it when I see it. But that was a big takeaway from San Francisco's media day and training camp availability. Nick, you've been in Dallas. You're covering Mavericks training camp, a very interesting team with a lot at stake this year. I'm in Miami, South Florida, covering Miami Heat training camp. We've got our headlines from Mavericks and Heat training camp coming up next after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Look, I love my Bird Dogs. They make me look good with their stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh to give the leg a truly sculpted look. To put it another way, Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better They're not as expensive, and they're better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. You're not going to want that. So Bird Dogs fixed the issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Here's the thing. Here's the key here. Bird Dogs uses an anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. I cannot emphasize this enough. The cool part, the anti-stink thing is great for people around me. I don't really care if I stink. That's their problem. But the keeping the leg and that whole little region area, in other words, cool in this Miami heat. And Nick, you could probably relate. My usual co-host Adam, it's like 60 degrees and beautiful all the time in Denver. But Texas, South Florida,
105 maybe.
You can get gross. It's like not nice. I'm actually right now on a college campus, FAU campus in Boca Raton, which is where the Heat camp is. And it feels like a college campus in Florida in that it is hot and you have to walk everywhere. If I had Bird Dogs in college when I went to UCF, go Knights, I would have never taken them off. I would have just been on rotation for 3 days, like every 3 days. I would have just been rotating them. So trust me, get yourself a pair. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter the promo code LockedOnNBA at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Let's jump right into it, Nick. You're in Dallas. You've been covering the Mavericks forever, but also during training camp right now. What's the headline? What's the big takeaway as we sort of wrap up training camp week out of Dallas?
The headline internally, like in Dallas, is the rookies getting starts, getting their opportunity. Derek Lively and Omax Prosper are getting opportunities. The headline that's going to come out nationally is, can Luka and Kyrie work, right? Like that's the whole thing people are focusing on. I'll give you the choice as the outsider. What would you rather hear about?
Well, I'm a dork, so I want to hear more about like Derek Lively II and Omax and all these.
Well, if anyone's listening to this show, they're also dorks too. So
yeah, if you're listening to me and Adam talk about basketball, you're like, you got to really love this stuff. But couldn't the argument be made that starting those two guys will help Luka and Kyrie get along on the court?
Those two guys, those two rookies, so Derek Lively and Omax Prosper, represent a skill set that the Mavericks just have so desperately needed, honestly, for years, years and years, to have both those guys at those spots. To have Derek Lively, a 7'1", with a 7'7" wingspan center that can rebound, new concept, that can defend the rim, that can do all that stuff. Like they desperately need somebody like that. To have Omax, who's a 6'8" wing that's big, can handle the ball a little bit, can take a three. Things like that. They just really
every draft nerd's favorite player going into that thing.
Absolutely. They need guys like that. And so, yeah, they needed some dirty work guys that could do those things. And they had some in the past, and it worked really well when they had Dorian Finney-Smith and when they had Reggie Bullock. It just worked really well when they had those two wings. But then they lost one of them. Josh Green didn't really necessarily jump into that role. Bullock took a step back last year, and then they really struggled to defend on the wings last season. And so they're really trying to take a step forward that way. I think Grant Williams helps, but trying out these two rookies, and the thing that Jason Kidd has said is he's trying out these rookies as a test. He's starting. I don't think both of them are going to start the season. I think they're both going to play in the preseason. They started the first preseason game, and then they ended up not finishing the game. That he wanted to try some other people out. So he's going to try these guys out as a test. He's going to see how it works. He's going to see how they look with Luka and Kyrie, how they look with Grant Williams, how they look in the starting lineup, and then he's going to make a decision from there. So I think that if you're coming out of this saying, well, are Derek Lively and Omax going to start for the whole year? I would say Lively has a better shot than Omax at this point, but I don't think that was the plan from Jason Kidd to begin with. He didn't say this is the starting lineup and we're sticking with this. It's I'm going to test these guys out, throw them in the fire and see what happens. And after one game, Lively looked pretty good to me in his spot. He got 4 fouls, but some of them were pretty tight, and he was playing against Gobert. It was a really big test for him to start. And he's going to get fouls anyway. That's what rookie centers do. So I think he did well. Omax just looked really rushed, and I don't think we saw what we're going to see from Omax going forward.
Yeah, I guess when Jason Kidd talks about throwing them in the fire, I just wonder, is the preseason the extent of that fire? Do you buy it that these guys can be starting in regular season games opening the season, or is that something that they might just wait to do later in the regular season?
Yeah, I buy that Lively could for sure, because you look at the other options. It's Dwight Powell again, the Zach Lowe proclaimed cockroach that just never leaves. And
I never heard that, but I was just about to make that comparison. He's hard to get rid of in that starting lineup. I think that's a real thing.
And the Mavericks were 7.7 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the court last year than when he wasn't. It's one of those wild things.
And Mike Muscala, it's just
Yeah, it's sad, but it's also true. And then Rashawn Holmes, those are your three options at center. And Rashawn Holmes didn't get any time on the Kings last year, so they're trying him and see what happens, maybe. But Derek Lively for sure, I could see get a shot. I think Josh Green will get the starting spot over Omax. I think Omax will get some time. But if you're talking about what the fire, like what throwing them in the fire is, what the test is for them, it's preseason. Summer League, they played him a bunch and wanted to see that. And then they also, Jason Kidd and the Mavs coaching staff asked those two guys to come back in August when everybody else came back at the end of September before their long trip in training camp. And so those guys have been in the gym for like 2 months with the Mavericks staff, working on stuff, trying to get better. And they said that Lively has taken really big leaps in that time that he's been there. And they know what their roles are. They only have a couple things they need him to do. Defend, like Lively, defend the rim, rebound, set screens, catch lobs. He's very good at all those things. So I think that there's a case that he could be starting for sure. I'm interested in the Miami side of it, even though as somebody that covers the Mavericks, I'm not supposed to be interested in what Miami is
doing. Just
doing.
for the record, this was supposed to be initially, obviously, and Nick, I love you and I love that you're on the show, but obviously it's supposed to be me and Adam, and we were going to talk about a 2023 NBA Finals sort of rematch training camp update. Instead, we're doing the 2011-2006 version of this. So yeah, True. Obviously you're not supposed to be interested in what happens with the Miami Heat, but I'll tell you.
I'm interested in so Spoelstra had the quote yesterday that they're deeper. What's his rationale that this Miami team is deeper than they were last year?
And I agree with him, for the record. And the reason is, look, last year people they didn't have Kevin Love to start the season. They were playing Caleb Martin at the 4, way out of position, and because they were playing their best backup wing as a starting power forward, their wing depth was basically nothing, right? And so that's part of it is, all right, we have a real power forward in Kevin Love who, he's not going to be playing 30 minutes a game, but you could start him for the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of each half. And then that lets you get into more of a normal rotation pattern after that. The other part of this too is they started last year with Dwayne Dedmon, who they didn't even last the entire season as Bam's backup center. Now they have Thomas Bryant and Orlando Robinson. They feel really, really good about Orlando Robinson. I think that's an upgrade day one. We'll see what happens with Thomas Bryant. Offensively, very skilled. Defensively, a lot to be desired. And then they lose, and a lot of people are focused, well, you lose Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. Also not their starting backcourt to start the last season. Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero were the starting backcourt for most of the year. Both of those guys are back. They add Josh Richardson, who knows the system. But I think the big thing here, Nick, is they really like what they've seen from Haywood Highsmith. They think that he can sort of be that next guy that people are like, where did the Heat find that guy? It's Haywood Highsmith. He's going to be probably that guy. They feel really good about where Duncan Robinson is right now relative to where he was last season. He can contribute and probably replace Max Strus from a shooting perspective. He's been basically on a 2-year slump and then broke out of it in the postseason. And then you add Nikola Jovic, who was injured for most of his rookie year. They're very high on him. In terms of stock risers in training camp, it's all Nikola Jovic. It's all anybody could talk about. I think he's going to play minutes for him, early. And then they really like Jaime Jaquez Jr., the kind of plug-and-play NBA-ready rookie that they drafted in June's draft. So they've added wing depth, they've added size across the board, and that was the biggest problem with Miami's depth last year is that they just lacked size, and all of their lineups were so small, and they had to work so hard across the board just to box out, rebound, and create shots that now that's going to be a little bit less difficult, at least in Eric Spoelstra's mind. Obviously, we'll wait and see what actually happens on the basketball court, but I do agree with them. I think they're deeper than they were last year.
If you go through and just count 10 rotation players, who are the 10?
I think the starters are going to be Josh Richardson, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Love, and Bam Adebayo. Off the bench, that gives you Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith probably, Caleb Martin, and I would guess at this point Orlando Robinson wins the starting the backup center job, but it could also be Thomas Bryant. And we're not even including other guys who could emerge, like a Jaime Jaquez. I didn't even include him in there, right? Other guys who could potentially be real players for them as the season goes on. But that would probably be my top 10.
You would put Josh Richardson in the starting lineup right now? Is that set? It's
not set. And Spoelstra keeps saying it's not set. It might be set, and he might just be lying to us, which is probably more possible than it not being set. But I don't think that Kyle Lowry starts. I don't. Kyle Lowry has said all week at training camp that he expects to start, but he almost just says it as a thing that he's supposed to say. And then every time Eric
I'm the best player in the NBA, that kind of that.
Right. Yeah. Of course I think I'm the best. 37 years old. I feel as great as I ever did. I'm 27 again. It's no, you're not. But Spo, every time he's asked about Kyle Lowry, goes right into like the coach cliches. He's a winner. He's a champion. He's a quarterback. He organizes us on the floor, and he just like completely skirts the starting job question, which is not new for Spo. But I've also heard that Josh Richardson is getting point guard reps in camp, like behind the scenes. So he played point guard for them in his first stint in Miami for a year. He did a little bit of that in San Antonio. But the other thing is, like, Miami's point guard is not really their point guard. It's Bam Adebayo and it's Jimmy Butler. Like, the offense runs through them. You just need guys who can defend and hit threes around those two guys. And Kyle Lowry was a very reluctant three-point shooter last year. He's definitely lost something defensively at this stage of his career. And then the argument can also be made, like, that backup unit that doesn't have Jimmy and Bam needs Kyle Lowry more than to set the table for that group, more than the starting unit needs Kyle Lowry.
Interesting spot for Miami to be in at this point. If you want to hear about the Nuggets, you can go listen to Locked On Nuggets with Adam Mares. You can do that. If you want to hear Locked On Mavs, we've got a show that covers your team every day. Click the link in the description to find that. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA today.